if the government could have come back with another appeal and said, we want this reviewed again. And there might be other legal options as well on the appellate side. So it seemed inevitable that some increase would happen. The question was how much. What is really amazing about this case is that it has spanned now 3 presidents and 5 attorneys general. It has gone on for year after year after year. And at the heart of the charges against Lynne is that she violated special administrative measures. And she spoke about that in the comments she made earlier this morning in the clip we heard. But what is not really talked about a lot is that this was a pre-9/11 offense that has occurred in a post-9/11 world. And it makes a huge difference in terms of the context in which this is all played out. Because at the time that the SAMs were imposed in 1996, Rahman was one of the first individuals who had these SAMs applied to him. It was a very new legal tool. It was evolving. There were several versions of the SAMs that came out. It's interesting to note that Patrick Fitzgerald, the assistant U.S. attorney who was in charge of that process, when Lynne initially violated the SAMs, his reaction was not to seek an indictment. It was simply to give her a call and say, hey, you violated the SAMs. You're not going to be able to see your client anymore, which is kind of what she was expecting. And it's true, she was gaming the system to a certain degree. I think that there are a lot of judgment calls that maybe, certainly I'm sure she regrets at this point, and that were probably the wrong decision to make at the time. But she was not barred from seeing him. She was for a while, and then she re-signed a new version of the SAMs. So the
special administrative measures.
Yeah, the special administrative measures, which essentially are a series of security requirements. They're designed kind of to prevent the defendant from communicating with the outside world. That was what she violated in a sense. But they have other aspects to them which essentially keep defendants in total isolation, which is one of the reasons that she breached the agreement, because she saw how isolated he was.
And she said in the courtroom yesterday that she was sorry she didn't challenge the SAMs from the beginning.
I think that that was a very significant comment, because today we see the SAMs applied in terrorism-related cases, not just post-trial, like in the case of the Sheikh Rahman, but also pre-trial. Sometimes people are held in isolation for 4 years.
Explain what he was convicted of, why he was in prison, and how an attorney negotiates this, representing her client.
I think it was new territory for everybody, including Lynne Stewart at the time when she first started representing him. And the issue here is what happened after the trial. He was accused of taking part in a conspiracy to commit terrorist acts in and around New York City. It was an extensive case that involved a government informant, and he was convicted on those charges and sentenced to life in prison. After that, these special administration measures were imposed, and he was kept in total isolation. He's also blind, couldn't really read because he has diabetes, and so he couldn't read Braille anymore. His fingers weren't sensitive. I think she saw her role as an attorney not only as an advocate in the courtroom, but as an advocate for her client, who I think she came to feel very close to during the course of this trial.
And ironically, I recall that Lynne was not the original attorney for the Sheikh. The late William Kunstler was the original attorney for the Sheikh, but he was removed from representing the Sheikh by Judge Mukasey, who then later became the Attorney General. And as a result of Kunstler being removed, then Lynne came to represent him. It's ironic, as you say, that this case has gone on for so long, for so many years now, and that she's been singled out in this way.
Her statement yesterday, very moving in the courtroom, when she talked about having learned no one, including the 70-year-old woman, can do 28 months standing on her head, something she had said when she had come out of the courtroom, originally relieved at the 2.5-year sentence. She had said, I could do it standing on my head. And she said, prison has diminished me. Daily I face the prospect of death, losing pieces of my personality. My sense of inquiry and compassion have turned to weariness, my thoughts regimented, my world once filled with love and laughter and family slipping away from me. And then they talked about what she had said on Democracy Now! About she would do it again. And she said that she meant she meant and do it again, meaning compassionately representing my client. I would do it again. He was old and blind, no longer could read Braille, couldn't communicate with anyone. It was his deteriorating health and conditions that compelled me, she said, not his politics. And she talked about the unreasonable restrictions, such as the SAMs, that she wished she had challenged right away. So can she appeal this?
Yes, she can appeal this. Whether she will remains to be seen. I think she has about 10 days to file an appeal, or 14. It was unclear from the proceedings yesterday. If she does, it's risky, though, because then the government could appeal the sentence. They were seeking 15 to 30 years. They could say 10 is too low. Let's go higher. And then who knows what the appellate court will do. So we don't know what's going to happen. The statement yesterday was very moving. I think that her record certainly did influence the judge, both in the first resentencing and I suppose in this one, because he did talk about it. She clearly is diminished. The word she used is very accurate.
Petra, you're writing a book called The Best Terrorists We Could Find. This is a book on terrorism trials in the United States. Do you see what happened to Lynne Stewart as a lawyer in one of these cases affecting lawyers in other cases?
I've already seen it affecting lawyers in other cases. There was a case of a man named Syed Fahad Hashmi who pled guilty he was actually sentenced last month after pleading guilty to charges of material support to terrorism. He was under the special administrative measures, which meant he was in total isolation for almost 4 years before his trial. It was almost impossible to get any information about his background, about the charges, any level of detail from his attorney, because the restrictions were so tight, and they know the risk that maybe nothing will happen, but maybe something will happen, and something could be as bad as what is happening here. I think Lynne definitely was unapologetic for her actions for a long time, in a sense, really made them angry, and that's why it got to this level. But it could happen to others, and it certainly is something that I think weighs heavily on the minds of attorneys who take these cases.
And if she doesn't appeal, what are the prospects of how would the earliest that she could get out?
I think that the rules in the federal courts is that you don't get too much time off for good behavior. She probably would serve most of the 10 years, which would bring her out close to 80 years of age, and she's ill. So there's a question of how severe this sentence may be the ultimate sentence.
Petra Bartosiewicz, I want to thank you very much for being with us. Independent journalist covering the Lynne Stewart case. And that does it for our broadcast. I look forward to seeing people tonight at the Monument Mountain Regional High School in Great Barrington as we celebrate the community radio station WBCRLP becoming full power station. That's in Massachusetts. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. Special thanks to Nicole Salazar, Sharif Udokadusa, and Mate.